Good morning and welcome to Judging by the Cover, the gaming review show where I rate games that I have not played and score them on how well the store page sells it. Since I have no formal journalistic credentials, I feel I am uniquely qualified to pass judgment on the hard work and dedication of other people. And happy December, and welcome to a special holiday season edition of our little review show. This month, in addition to our midweek specials from the Game of the Year nominations, we are spending our Sundays looking at games on sale to see if these holiday deals are actually worth it. For this week's consideration, we're looking at Two Point Hospital from Two Point Studios and published by Sega. Released in August of 2018, the Two Point series of quirky simulation games have a couple of extra titles available, with Two Point Campus and Two Point Museum sticking to a very consistent branding, while each gives at least a surface appearance of offering unique settings and management mechanics. In a way, it reminds me of the classic Sim series of games from the 1990s and early 2000s. And I don't know about you all, but growing up, I did have some experience with various games under that umbrella, including SimCity, Sim Tower, and Sim Ant. Although I will admit I avoided The Sims like the plague, especially considering its, shall we say, excessive lean towards paid DLC packages and expansions. Basically, imagine the Tycoon series of games before the Tycoon brand exploded. Or maybe I'm a little clouded by my own childhood bias. Anyways, on to Two Point Hospital. With the store telling us we get to build up a hospital from nothing to a masterpiece as you design the most beautiful or functional healthcare operation in the whole of Two Point County. Optimize your hospital design to increase patient and cash flow, arranging corridors, rooms, and waiting areas to your exact specifications. Expand your hospital to multiple buildings as you look to get as many patients through the door as possible. Place decorative and functional items around your hospital to improve its prestige, lower patient boredom, and increase happiness, and keep the end of year awards flowing in. Honestly, that looks like a pretty good start off here. We're getting told that we are our primary focus is profits. We do want to make sure that we make money, that we stay in business, because, I mean, especially here in the US, healthcare is a for profit system. Or at the very least, if you're not specifically for profit, you need to make sure that you're at least not hemorrhaging money so that you can stay afloat, make sure you stay open, keep your doors open, keep your staff paid, because quite frankly, everyone's got bills to pay. They should all be compensated. On to cure unusual illnesses. Don't expect Two Point County to be populated with your usual types of patients. In this world, you'll experience all kinds of unusual illnesses, from lightheadedness to cubism, each requiring their very own special type of treatment machine. Diagnose illnesses, build the right rooms to handle them, hire the right staff, and then get ready, because curing just one of these illnesses is just the beginning. You can handle a single patient, but can you handle a pandemic? Once you've conquered an illness, research improved cures and machines to turn your hospital into an unstoppable healthcare juggernaut. So, in addition to that, it is telling us that we have a little bit of a pipeline as far as progression and advancement so that we can keep producing better results and faster results to make sure we stay ahead of the curve. You improve and expand your hospital horizons. Your first hospital is where it begins, but what next? Once you've cured the residents of a small harbor village, can you take on a bigger challenge in a busier hospital? Improve your facilities, upgrade machines, staff, and layouts to make more money more quickly. Just like almost any other simulation game out there, simulation management games, it's all about that constant progression forward. Make the use of extensive statistic and information screens to analyze your strengths and weaknesses and make rapid alterations. Adjust the price of your treatments, keep an eye on your turnover, take out loans, and optimize your earnings. You'll be managing staff with unique personality types and traits, so you'll need to keep an eye on who's being efficient and who is just a pain in the neck. Balance your workforce with your ambitions as you strive to make profit and hopefully save some people along the way. That that last part sounds very US like USA driven healthcare thought process. So oh, I'm getting a little. Although you know what, it's a game, it's a setting. They're setting a fictional thing. If it takes a little inspiration from the real world thing, I'm gonna try and leave my personal other biases at the door for this. Anyway, moving on to part two, we have screenshots. In fact, quite a few screenshots to look at. The screenshots do provide a decent look at the hospital layout and a snapshot of what some of the unreal illnesses look like in the game, reinforcing the sense of silliness and fantasy that you can expect from the game. In a time where simulation games are designed with a cozy motif, are pretty commonplace. It's a little interesting to see something like that take and embrace the absurdity. Though a part of me is questioning some of the layouts that are shown, like what we have here. It's a bit of a sprawling layout with outdoor roads and walkways in between departments. Although I do admit I haven't been inside of a huge variety of medical facilities, so maybe that's just, again, my own bias. In addition to hospital layouts, we see some quirks of the game where apparently mummies and ghosts are not unheard of, along with the Luigi's Mansion style of just vacuuming them right up. Surprisingly, counseling and therapy appear to be a part of the game's medical practice, though from the screenshot alone, it's hard to tell if the tiny head is supposed to be the symptom of an illness that led to the person seeing a shrink, or if the shrunken head is a result of seeing the doctor. Though, fortunately, we will see later in the trailers that it does clear that up. And as promised in the game's description, we do see some of the unusual machines that you will need to use in order to cure your patients. And by unusual, you know those spinning things where you strap into the rings and you get spun around? Yeah, I've only ever seen that portrayed as a recreational device, not a medical one. So it'd be interesting to see how exactly it plays out here. The rest of the screenshots pretty much showcase more of the hospital layouts alongside some of the rooms and facilities you might see, including an indoor circus tent. And please tell me that there's some kind of medical gloomies that you have to cure with that. That would be hilarious, actually. As for the lounge, there's we have more layouts, followed by, hey, we have a shot of a lounge here showing a dartboard and a Sega arcade cabinet. That right there is just the kind of self-referencing nonsense that I would expect from a quirky game like this. Now, in part three, we have a good selection of trailers to choose from here. Steam is giving us a total of four trailers to pitch the game to us. First of all, presenting as if it's an advertisement for an actual medical facility, we get a goofy look at the game that goes into a little depth of some of the things we've seen in the screenshots. Apparently, the tiny head is a turtle head condition that requires a special machine to yank your head out from your neck, and the circus tent is having to do with curing a jester disease. Sounds a little bit like the public relations type of doctor promoting with a soothing voice, purposely trying to lull people in with a comfort that would be akin to a patented radio announcer type of voice. The, the trailer does cap off pretty nicely where the doctor breaks character as he's more enthusiastic about getting to his game of golf. Now, the second trailer shows off a Superbug initiative, and this one I have a little bit of a mixed gripe with. It boasts a collaborative function of multiplayer gameplay to further in game medical research. It gives very small hints at the kinds of things you can expect, but overall, the fact that a sim game like this has this sort of multiplayer function feels like a mixed bag. Multiplayer games require a huge key component to success: other players. And considering that the game is now over 7 years old with two newer 2 point games out there, as an uninitiated pleb of the series, I'm not exactly confident that the multiplayer scene is going to be robust enough for me to get the full enjoyment out of that. Of course, I'm sure looking around enough within some dedicated communities would be easy to find in a Discord or a subreddit associated with this, where I could find results. But at the same time, I think I would prefer to do something like this with friends, which means coordinating with them around their busy schedules, assuming they've even bought this game to begin with. And frankly, even on sale, if I were to pick up this game, it might not be something I advise to everybody, depending on their tastes, their preferences, and quite frankly, their budget. Now, moving forward, we do have our third trailer, which leans much more heavily into the game's brand of silly by presenting a newscast utilizing the distinct 3D rendered character models to present us with the city's illest man, Trevor, and his latest struggle as he suffers from cubism, a disease hinted at earlier in the description. Even if not as a game trailer, this video would have been exactly the kind of funny, amusing short animation that I'd enjoy as a standalone joke. Finally, the last trailer goes back to the soothing voice doctor telling us more about Trevor and his recent struggle with lightheadedness. And no, he's not talking about getting dizzy when he stands up. His head is a literal light bulb. It's another video that could have just been a standalone joke as an animation in itself instead of a game trailer, which it's a refreshing advertising method to promote their games since they don't have to have the game attached to it, especially one designed specifically for the not taken seriously kind of vibes. With that, we are going to go ahead and move on to part four of our analysis, the game analysis itself. Now, what we are shown gives us an extremely fair expectation for the graphics. It's not a spectacular show of hyperrealism, opting instead for a simplified cartoon rendering that fits the themes of the game. Characters look sort of like a Wallace and Gromit claymation mold, and the building layouts are clearly defined, making it pretty easy to tell what's what. The characters' illnesses, appearing to be mostly extremely distinct physical conditions, make it pretty easy to tell them apart from other characters on the screen. The trailers do use the soothing music and thematically appropriate tunes or lack thereof for their settings, like the newscast. And I do hope that the music from the trailers are some of the same tracks that you listen to during the actual gameplay. It's a very underplayed background kind of pleasant that I think should accompany a game like this. Something that is, again, present in the background without having to overpower the scene for heightened moods like you would expect with more active, action driven gameplay. Now, with the gameplay information, the description does a little bit of the heavy lifting here, telling us more than the screenshots and trailers provide, giving us a little bit of an expectation for a pretty standard progression climb for these kinds of management games. Constantly working to improve your building, equipment, and staff, likely even facing full-blown medical disasters, which may upend any sense of cozy that you would otherwise enjoy here. But hey, even cozy games need a little bit of a bump in the road to keep you engaged from time to time. The user interface and menus. Now, the description does hint at the menus that you'll be going through, but we really don't see much of any of that in the trailers or screenshots. It gives us a lot more focus on the buildings and the overall tone of the game. And personally, I do think a little show of the staff and building menus, even for just a few seconds in the trailers, could have been helpful. After all, management games are going to have you spending a lot of time in those menus. So a good menu design and layout is very important. And if we had the ability to see that before purchase, I would think of this a little more favorably. And now, okay, the part that everyone loves or hates depending on your income, the pricing. And oh, sweet God, the pricing. At the time of this review, The game is on sale for $7.49, down from a full price of $30. Now, this is an incredible sale price that would be absolutely fair for the base game. But based on what I'm seeing, I'm not entirely certain that the $30 is a price that I would consider paying for this game. Other games of a similar, if not even more robust caliber, with stronger character progression, often come at a lower price tag. And I'm wondering if the price is mainly supported by the fact that it has Sega's name attached to it. Now, that $30 price tag is not even the sole issue I have with this game's cost. That's right, we have DLC. Now, at the time of this review, there is a full health collection bundle that includes everything that has been released for the game, except for these two free DLC packs shown here, which those are free ones. You can get those separately, no big deal. It's a zombie costume pack and a Sega 60th anniversary item set. These DLCs have been released over the course of a couple years, uh, actually several years, the most recent hitting the store in February of 2021, about a year before Two Point Campus released. Now, paid DLC is not the worst thing a game can do. I know some people out there disagree with that, but I am going to adamantly stand by that. I occasionally do even get some paid DLC to add on to games that I do really enjoy, but well, remember how I said earlier that The Sims has a bad habit of tacking on tons of paid DLC and expansions? That is what we're looking at here. Now, currently, the Full Health Collection is on sale for $39.88, nearly $10 more than the price of the full base game. That that $39.88 is considering the sale price of the game right now. That marks down each DLC by 50% plus a little extra bonus there. And to purchase the entire bundle at full price, the store is putting that sale on for $91.90, which is more than triple the price of the base game. Mind you, a base game that I had initially said I did not even think was worth the full $30 price tag, considering other games on the market even from the similar release year. Of course, to be 100% fair, we should examine the DLC at least briefly to see just how much is added to the game. Maybe some of the bundle will do something drastic, like even triple the amount of actual game content. Now, what we have here, I do have all of them laid out. And for anybody considering this, I highly recommend looking at each of these. It shows you, you can go straight to the store page for each individual one. And each DLC does have its own trailer and its own screenshots. At least the content DLCs do. The other DLCs for the item packs, these four here, those at least have some screenshots to show you what you're getting. First off, we have Pebberley Island. It offers a new location to build your medical facilities, accompanying Jeff Bezos as he searches for the Fountain of Youth. Well, it gives you a new island location, multiple biomes for your hospital, with new illnesses and machines to boot. Honestly, if the Eternal Youth storyline has a satisfying resolution, this DLC at least looks like it could have some promise. Maybe I was wrong about the DLC bundle. Maybe. But we're going to go ahead and keep going down. Next up, we have Close Encounters, which brings you to a desert with new illnesses and machines and a UFO crash storyline. Seems to also offer some unique buildings and interesting new characters, though unless it really leans into the oh my god there's aliens theme, I'm not sure that it really expands too much on the core game unless there's a promise of some actual storyline goals like what Pebberley Island appears to offer. So, mixed bag there. Next up we have A Stitch in Time, which takes another unique twist to our silly hospital project offering time travel shenanigans with patients and what appears to be also different facilities in prehistoric, medieval, and futuristic settings. Now, the three new biomes with new illnesses and new cures seems to be a running theme for all of these DLCs. Honestly, it's a neat little reskin to some of the things in the game, but I'm not sure if there's any kind of meaningful story progression that can be expected. Although the time jumping for aesthetic might be neat enough to add on, at least for that discounted price. Next up, we have Off the Grid, which takes an interesting political leaning and not necessarily in the controversial red versus blue form that might scare off some viewers, but rather in an in universe mayor clinging to their votership by promoting some eco friendly initiatives in a manner that promises new gameplay opportunities. In addition to some new locations to build in, each of the three zones and building styles presented here seem to offer their own unique cultures and values that might change how you approach your hospital management and healthcare, along with the usual new diseases and treatment options that each DLC offers. At least this one appears to offer more than just a reskin of new illnesses and new machines that some of the DLCs appear to be. With some of the mechanical differences, it actually looks a little interesting and quite possibly actually worth that discounted price. Next up is Culture Shock, which offers, well, it continues the weird and silly nature of the game. Illnesses and treatments demand arts to cure people. With new locations, illnesses, and treatments, and sure, these additional things look neat, but unlike a couple of the other ones, I'm not feeling that there's much more than what is simply already there in the game. I don't see much expanding from the actual gameplay, and it looks like a lot of this might be reused assets from some of the other later games going on. Next up, we have Bigfoot, which takes us into the mountains. As expected, it's more facilities, illnesses, and cures. And at the very least, the description does seem to tell us about different benchmarks for how you get paid in this, as opposed to the traditional gameplay of getting paid for curing people. So, in addition to the settings and the silly sicknesses, you might actually enjoy having different kinds of goals to focus on in your game with this new setting. Now, we are going to go ahead and skip forward a little bit before we get to the cosmetic ones. There is Speedy Recovery down here at the bottom, which offers a whole new style of ambulances specializing in getting patients to the hospitals faster than ever. With an extra note in rival hospitals to cut in on your business with their own transport systems. This expansion has the usual new biome sicknesses and treatments, but the highlight appears to be the new ambulance and rival mechanic, adding an extra layer to the game. So, at least with this one, it caps off with a lot of the DLC just being like, yeah, we're basically just bloating the game with new stuff. Not sure how much it actually expands the gameplay, but this one at least seems to add a bit more on top of that gameplay, especially if you can get those transport options in the other biomes to enjoy in the rest of the game. Now, lastly, we do have four cosmetic DLC packs. The last few, primarily items and outfits. So you're paying for the equivalent of, like we reviewed a couple weeks ago, with Artillery Rises swimsuit packs in the forms of 2 Point Hospitals Retro Items Pack and Fancy Dress Pack. We even see this one has some mixed reviews. People probably complain about it being just alternate outfits. And there's also an Exhibition Items Pack, which honestly, it looks like these items came straight from the much more recently released 2 Point Museum game, which is kind of a cool crossover, and maybe they were working on the assets for that game, and it just ended up coming out into this while that other game was in production. Lastly, we do have the bundle capping off with the original soundtrack of the game. There is a brief snippet of music in the form of a quote unquote trailer on the page for it. And the brief snippet that we get, it, it doesn't exactly have the vibe of iconic and timeless bops that it'll stick in your head for years to come. But sometimes if you like game soundtracks for just a little background music for whatever silliness you have going on in your life or whatever you're doing, it's not unpleasant. Now, individually, each DLC may look fairly priced, especially at half off, where the content packs are about 450 a piece, the costume and item packs are 250, and the soundtrack is $4. But remember, this is a bundle of 11 DLCs, which adds up to over $40 if you buy the individual DLCs apart from the base game, or getting the full game plus the DLC packaged together for a discounted price of $39.88 as long as you get it while it's on sale. Remember, the bundle at full price is more than $90 for everything together so that you can experience everything that the game has to offer when the original base game was $30. If this game is up your alley, I would absolutely suggest you only buy it on a major sale like this, which is only going to be for a few more days after this review. Otherwise, keep your eye out for the sale. But with the kind of price structure this game has for all that DLC, it's likely one that I would personally avoid on principle alone. I had a similar issue with Attila the Ryza a couple of weeks ago, but at least the edition of the game that I reviewed on that episode was one that was a single all inclusive release as opposed to the original game plus separate DLC packages that would have also added up to over $90. Two Point Hospital's bundle on sale is the only way I could see the price coming close to anything I would ever even consider for this. Now, Two Point Hospital is also available on Nintendo Switch. And in standard Switch fashion, we get a much less impressive look at the game's features. Only one trailer has made its way onto the Switch, and the purchase structure has seen some changes as well. In fact, from my cursory search on the game, the base game alone appears to be unavailable for purchase entirely. For anyone who bought the base game early, there is a $20 option to buy the Jumbo Edition upgrade, which includes Bigfoot, Off the Grid, Close Encounters, and Pebberly Island. So it's still missing that Speedy Recovery expansion. All of those, now each of those would have been $9 at full price on Steam. So the bundled value is still comparatively better than the original prices without the sale. A few packs are also available for sale individually, but since the jumbo upgrade exists, the single set DLCs just aren't worth it. Apart from the Jumbo Edition upgrade, if you were looking to buy the game on the Switch, since the base game is unavailable, you would have to spend $40 on the Jumbo Edition specifically, which includes the base game with the DLCs. At least those four. Although the other cosmetic DLCs that are available on Switch seem to be excluded. Now, for part five, we're finally getting to our rating of this. I know this episode's been a little bit long of me droning on about this with all that DLC. In all honesty, it brings me no joy to give out a score like this, but I have to drop 2 Point Hotel to a disappointing rating of 3 out of 10, and this comes mostly at the cost of the game. As far as games go, it looks extremely competent in what it sets out to do, but when I have to pick my purchases based on being able to justify the cost with how much time I can reasonably expect myself to put into something, I don't see myself shelling out over $40 on either the Switch or on Steam to get it on sale for this. Maybe if a much more generous sale happens on Steam, or if the Jumbo Edition on Switch hit at least a 50% discount, I might consider it if there was demand among viewers on YouTube or Twitch to warrant it, or if I knew that my close personal friends would be there to actually go on for some of that multiplayer stuff. Otherwise, I think that that is the absolute highest I can go on it. Now, that 3 out of 10 score is simply my own personal judgment, and it does not mean that I consider the game to have no value. Players who like this kind of goofy atmosphere with a love of simulation and management games like Ye Old Sim Tower or Theme Park Tycoon are very likely going to enjoy their time here based on what the store page is promising. If you are the kind of player who is looking for that and has the disposable income to justify the cost for how much time you think you will put into the game, by all means, it looks like you can give it that value. It's just a very hard sell for me seeing the game release a total in DLC that costs more than twice the original base game before you count for the sales prices. Now, remember, the views expressed here are purely opinions. We all have different tastes when it comes to entertainment media, and I will gladly welcome any differing opinions and respectful criticism in the comments. That is why we're out here in this discourse. For those of you who have played this, what are your thoughts? I'd like to know what you think. Leave a comment, your own analysis, and based on what we've presented here and what is presented on Steam and on Switch, if you have a different rating you'd give, by all means, I would love to know what you think about it.